Welcome to the show. Can we all just take a collective deep breath and sigh it out? We've had a good day. I had a good night last night. If you guys hung out, we did a little pop-up stream to cover the election night results, and boy, were they results indeed, because Donald Trump took home the presidency. He is now our 45th and 47th president of the United States of America. We got to go ahead and give a round of applause, okay, for all involved, everybody who made that happen. And today we're going to be covering everything that led up to him being elected to president, why he was elected as president, the leftist meltdowns that have happened in the wake of him being elected president, celebrity meltdowns, the media's response, anything, you name it, we're going to cover it today. Also, Vice President Kamala Harris is supposed to go on stage in just a few moments now to give her concession speech and address the nation in the wake of the news that she has lost this last election. So we're waiting for that to happen. We might interrupt our storytelling to pop over to that and hear from Kamala Harris ourselves. And with all that, we have Taylor in Nashville.
We did it, Joe. Rogan. How about that? Man, light sleep last night, not a lot, but it's a new day, new dawn in America. I've been firing off all kinds of tweets and Instagrams and been following all the craziness. So much to react to today. Let's get into it.
Yeah, 100%. It's a lot to keep up with. We are going to go through so many stories. I don't know how long we're going to be here today. Taylor will interrupt when Kamala Harris takes the stage, and we will move over to her. But it was interesting watching mainstream media last night, or shall we call it legacy media, given what's happened over the last 24 hours. They were absolutely shocked by the abysmal performance of Kamala Harris. Now, here's a clip from CNN where they're checking in on how many counties exactly she lost in comparison to Joe Biden before her in the 4 years before in his last election. Let's watch the clip.
So you asked, are there any places that the vice president is overperforming Joe Biden in 2020? So we could show you that as well. We just bring that out here. Harris overperforming in 2020.
Holy smokes.
There you go. So let this go away and see if there's anything on the east side there.
Literally nothing?
Literally nothing.
Literally not one county?
So you asked, are there any places that the vice president is overperforming Joe Biden in 2020? So we could show you that as well. We just bring that out here.
The map.
Harris overperforming in 2020.
Holy.
Oh my gosh, look at that blank map. And it's so interesting because it's so different from the story that we got from the media. She was going to be amazing and she was going to sweep the floor with him. And Kamala Harris is a new generation of leadership, and boom, not a single place did she perform better than Joe Biden in 2020. It's just astounding. Senpai in Apple says, I've been watching y'all for years, so hopefully this makes up for it. Oh, this donation. Sorry, it makes up for it. Democracy prevails. Love y'all. Absolutely. Thank you so much for your support. And I'm glad that you've been watching us for quite some time now. What a day. I mean, just with what happened last night, that's enough. That's enough support. It's enough kindness. It's enough good news for me to move on and forge ahead. We have an interesting time ahead of us. But yes, Kamala Harris took quite a big L. Quite a big L last night. We're going to look at some more graphs here. It says losing with some typically means winning the others and vice versa. Losing big with everyone across the board is nearly unprecedented and hard to conceive of as even possible. Now look at all these demographics, and Trump was just up, and with Kamala Harris just tanking down. And there were some shocking things to this, you know. People thought it was really going to be just men showing up, and white men in particular showing up for Donald Trump. It didn't happen to be that. I mean, in every single demographic that we would typically market as being leftist, Donald Trump was up and he was gaining points with them. And this has been much to the chagrin of the political left. We're going to get into some of the responses down the line, how they're treating black people, black men in particular right now, how they're treating Hispanic and Latino people, specifically Latino men right now. It's going to blow your mind, the sort of racist stuff that is coming out of these people's mouths because they're upset and feel abandoned by these demographics who honestly felt abandoned by the Democratic left. They realized that the Democrats were just using them as pawns in their election games and decided to move in another direction. And that's the direction of Donald Trump. And boy, did that work out for them and not for the left that is now just running rampant in their outrage and meltdown towards these demographics. Now we have
real quick. For so much that's been made about the different, cohort groups and demographic groups. The crazy thing is that besides young single women, Trump made gains in every single demographic category across the board. So the fact that this was such a decisive election really does prove what we were talking about yesterday, which is that this is normal people who want common sense, and that revolting against, gaslighting they've been experiencing by the media over the last 3 or 4 years. So it's just absolutely insane. I think that's what we're going to see. So much of what the left is trying to cope with right now is the fact that they appear to have lost the popular vote, and they've lost all these demographics that they felt entitled to those votes from black men, black women, all these other things. And Trump's gained in everything but single women.
Yeah, and I think it was actually like single women who had not received secondary education in college. They were gaining with Trump, and then single women who went to college decided, oh no, we're gonna go vote for Kamala Harris, which really should tell you all you need to know. And now the left is running and saying, oh, you guys are just uneducated. It's people who didn't go to college. It's because you don't know anything that you didn't vote for Kamala Harris. And this tactic, I'm gonna let them know now, is not going to work for them. They need to rework their angles that they're coming at this from and try something new on us, because it's not working. Now, among some of our minority populations, it seems like Native Americans really showed up and showed out for Donald Trump, being the most based demographic by 10 whole percentage points. Somebody said this was not on their 2024 bingo card, but look at that. I mean, white, black, Latino, Hispanic, Asian, American Indian, boom. Look at that red line. Other, it's just been insane to watch. And when you couple it with the sort of white nationalist rhetoric that everybody is hearing about Donald Trump, it should really astound you how many people were able to see through the lies of legacy media and forge ahead and decide, you know what? I think something's off here. I think they're trying to keep me away from something that's probably going to lead to better outcomes for me. And they voted for Donald Trump anyways. If you were an Asian, you were seeing Kamala Harris post things like "Stop Asian Hate" alongside Dr. Ken Jeong, that actor who was in The Hangover, who also happens to be a doctor. If you were Hispanic or Latino, it was all about immigration. He's going to deport you. He doesn't care about you. You saw through that. You voted for Donald Trump anyways. If you were Native American, it was all about cultural appropriation and sort of reconciling America's past as colonialists came to this land and stole the land from you and dealing with the repercussions of that. They didn't fall for it. They voted for Donald Trump. With black people, we all know what it was. It was police brutality. It was slavery. It was Jim Crow, and that he was going to usher in a new era of that. Never mind the fact that Kamala Harris is really the segregationist candidate, but people saw through it, and in droves they came to vote for Donald Trump. And instead of thinking, what did we do that led to this? Democrats are now blaming them for doing it. Now, it's not just in our racial categories and our gender categories that we're seeing a lot of differences here. Trump won 1 in 5 self-identified LGBT voters. How did that happen? It could have been those normal gays that J.D. Vance was talking about on Joe Rogan that everybody got so upset about. How dare he say normal gays? What does it even mean to be a normal gay? He's trying to further divide our country on the basis of sexuality. Nope. I think he knew what he was talking about. He was talking about those L's and G's and B's, and in some cases even T's, who thought we're going a little bit too far with the gender theory. In fact, the gender theory in a lot of ways invalidates the lesbian, bisexual, and gay identity in its very essence. And even some people with the trans people were going, oh, you know what? I think that I'm a woman born in a man's body, but I don't think kids should be able to make that decision about their bodies. I don't think inmates in federal prisons should have taxpayer-funded sex change surgeries, which Kamala Harris was a strong advocate for. And those 1 in 5 self-identified LGBT voters came to the polls and voted within their best interests for Donald Trump once again. It's just one after the other. As I said last night, I was like in a nail biter phase, stress eating, when I first turned on the TV to see these votes ringing in and see them calling states. And then slowly but surely, I was like, this is going smoothly. I think he's going to win. The New York Times is saying he's going to win. New York Times and MSNBC and CBS and ABC, they're coming in and he's winning more states, he's winning more states, he's winning more states. If anything, I'm seeing more like trepidation among conservative outlets than I am amongst these like liberal and left-leaning outlets. And I was thinking, can I get comfortable with the idea that he's won this election? And not until the very end did I become comfortable with it, because we all know shit can go down at any moment. But my goodness, he won. By George, he did it.
Yeah,
And
we're
here
still
we are.
haunted by the midnight ballot batches that came in 2020, and there were reports of, Steven Crowder was posting these giant U-Haul trucks pulling up with batches of ballots in Pennsylvania at midnight, but
sweating.
it didn't matter after all, apparently. And I didn't believe my own eyes, until late into the night when you started seeing some of the mainstream outlets saying, it's officially been called. We did get a $100 super chat here from CGen, who says, yay, finally joined the live. Love you, Amala and Taylor. Thanks for being amazing.
Thank you for supporting us and being here with us. What a monumental day to have shared this time together and to talk through everything that we've seen. And I thank you all for your comments. Some of you are saying it was too big to rig, for sure. Yeah. And we're going to get to calls of election fraud that are now coming out of the left, which is just hilarious. And whether or not there's going to be some sort of a recount. Many are lobbying Joe Biden to call for a recount of this election. So we'll see what happens there, and we'll talk about that in just a moment. Another demographic that Trump really pulled through with is Gen Z men, and we did see this coming. Gen Z men trend conservative, while Gen Z women trend liberal. Of course, they are all obsessed with this abortion utopia that they wanted on the other end of a Kamala Harris win, even though she could do nothing basically on the issue of abortion, given that Roe v. Wade was overturned and is now handed down to the states. So women showed up for Kamala Harris, but Gen Z men, boom, right there. We witnessed a 29 percentage point shift to the right among young men 18 to 29 from 2020 to 2024. 4 years, a 29 percentage point shift to the right. What could possibly have caused that? Could it be all the toxic masculinity rhetoric? Could it be all these women saying that if they got a pregnancy test and found out it was a boy, they would abort it? Could it be all these women who are talking about boy moms and saying they're a stain on this nation's history? Could it be the rhetoric against masculinity, against maleness in its essence, and against masculinity being present in our society at all? Could that maybe be the reason that men are deciding, okay, I think I'm going to vote again within my best interest? And we saw this really pull through for Donald Trump in the states Michigan and Ohio, where the men were showing up and they had sort of thought, we don't even know. We know these young men support Donald Trump. We know that they want to make America great again and that this is their shift if they have a political shift. But the big question was, are they going to show up to the polls? Because for a long time, it was that women, young women in particular, were really showing up. They're the ones who take the extra effort to find their polling location to show up on election day and vote. But young men decided yesterday was the day that they were going to do the same. They waited in hours-long poll lines in order to place their votes, and it really pulled through, especially in the 18 to 29 category.
That's a big theme right now, is like faced with the loss, will the insane people, for example, these young women that you're talking about that have been pushing this narrative of toxic masculinity and stuff, will they return towards sanity or will they double down? And so far, I've seen lots of calls for reestablishing the 4B movement and boycotting men and marriage is off the table and we're never going to have sex with you because we can't have access to abortions and all this stuff. And if that's the direction that they're going, I think it's that divide is only going to get wider. But I think that's definitely something to be paying attention to in the coming weeks, is who's doubling down and who's coming back to reality. Yeah.
And I don't, we'll see how women do with that. I mean, that's a valiant effort on your part. And you know what? Given your ideological bend, stick to it. Stick to your 4B movement and see where that lands you. It goes against our natural tendencies. So I doubt many of these women will actually stick to that promise for very long. So yeah, we've spoken about the racial identity groups. We're about to get to a different one in just a moment. We've spoken about gender and Gen Z individuals. Kamala Harris also lost out on all of the heavily Arab and Muslim districts in Michigan. And here we have the numbers on that. And somebody says, here it all came down to Gaza. A lot of people did not like Kamala Harris's response to what was taking place in Gaza. They found out through our legacy media that she was running ads in highly Israeli populations saying that she wanted to support Israel and Israel has a right to defend itself. And then in more Arab and Muslim communities, she was running ads that say she was wanting to support the Gazans in their fight with Israel and to defend them on the basis of the suffering that they've now experienced after October 7th. So which one is it, baby girl? You can't just run around saying things to different crowds all these different times. And we know you've been getting away with it for quite some time now, but people are realizing, and the Democrats are now citing that millions of Democrats apparently didn't show up to vote. I think something to the tune of 15 million votes. And they're going to, I think, push an election fraud narrative, which we'll get to in a moment. But could it be that I saw a lot of leftists who are saying, I'm not going to show up on election day because neither of these candidates, I feel like, is going to move the needle when it comes to free Palestine and when it comes to the Palestinian movement and Palestinian liberation. I saw a lot of that rhetoric, and I wonder how many people really stood steadfast in their resolve to not engage with this election cycle whatsoever because of how they were feeling about what's happening between Israel and the Palestinians. Now, Tom Carver sends a super chat. He says, I'm a normal gay. It is time to separate the LG and B. So relieved for the outcome last night, and he won the popular vote too. Democrats love bringing that up, but they aren't talking about it now. Yeah, it could not have been a better day for Republicans yesterday. We're still waiting on some of the House positions. So if we pull through there, you're talking major gains. I don't think we've ever seen such a significant election for Republicans over, I don't even know how many decades at this point. You could have a Republican House, Senate, the executive branch, and with his whole administration, and then the Supreme Court as well. I think there's going to be a lot to get done, a lot to get done over the next 4 years.
Red tsunami for sure.
Yeah.
You mentioned that claims of voter fraud and stuff too, and I've been seeing this stat a lot in 2020. Biden got 81.2 million votes, and as of right now, Kamala's got 66.5 million. So that 15 million gap. There's, some Democrats are blaming a lack of turnout. Others are blaming minorities and all kinds of different groups.
Right.
But there's also how much of the votes that Biden got in 2020 were from the mail-in ballots and the sus stuff going on then. I think it's probably some combination of sketchy things and also just a total lack of enthusiasm on behalf of Kamala Harris.
Also,
it looks like we do have, hasn't started yet, but some people are starting to approach the microphone on the Kamala stream.
We're going to keep an eye on that. Yeah. And I wonder, does it account for Democrats who have maybe switched their votes and jumped ship to vote for Donald Trump? Does that... Maybe it doesn't account for those numbers.
If y'all are interested too, I mean, Trump got 74 million in 2020 and 71.4 million as of current counts in 2024.
Oh, okay.
So overall turnout is slightly down compared to 2020, which makes sense. I guess we had so many mail-in ballots and everything, but there's a lot more room for fraudulence though with the mail-in ballots, and it's much easier for people to turn out that way. So. It's an interesting disparity there.
We'll figure out more in the coming days.
But of course, the election fraud's coming in from the left now, even though the turnout is much lower, which doesn't make sense because it's not like you had more Trump votes than normal. He just had a normal, even underperformed his prior count. And yet there's more election fraud that make it make sense.
I feel like they're going to accuse the right of losing 15 million votes from the Democrats, we mailed them in, or they were absentee ballots and you just never counted them at any point. I think that's going to be the accusation, at least from some of the rhetoric that I'm seeing, but it's just randos on Twitter who are tweeting these things out and going viral for saying them. Yeah, it doesn't seem to be resonating at all within the actual hierarchy of our government. You're not seeing a lot of Democratic officials or White House operatives saying anything about calling for a recount or smelling election fraud on this. In fact, a lot of them are coming out in full force against Kamala Harris and saying this was a shitty candidate to begin with. And there's a lot of back and forth of people very high up within government telling each other in the plans leading up to this Kamala Harris candidacy that she should not have been the candidate. And this was actually a major topic of debate. And they ran with her anyways, thinking that they were going to be able to just pull through with it. And the American people knew better. They figured it out. So here we are. Couldn't be happier. Now, this is the crowd when they figured out that this race was called by Fox. Let's check it out. There you go. A red tsunami Indeed. I think this is like one of the first times in American history for at least the last, how many, like 12 years now, that you're going to see people running around with Make America Great Again hats, and they're not going to be trying to hide it whatsoever. It used to be a thing that would get you like punched in the face for wearing. I don't think so anymore. There might be a great shift of people being allowed to be open about their support of Donald Trump. And this was an interesting thing. They actually did exit polling and questions to voters about their feeling of hiding the person that they're voting for. And the largest demographic that reported hiding who they voted for as president was actually Gen Z men. And you have to think about this, okay? Because now all these women are coming out and saying, F you, I'm not going to sleep with you. I don't want to date you. I don't want to talk to you. You guys are misogynist. You guys are racist. So they sort of created this environment. And it's not just women who created this environment. The entire world of leftists created this environment for young men that made them feel like they needed to conceal their true leanings. Then they're going to college and meeting these woke professors and feeling like they need to hide themselves further. And we heard that from so many of you who watch this show every day, that you don't know what to write your papers about in college because you feel like you'll get an F just for really talking about what your true opinions are. So it created this sort of underground network of Gen Z conservative men who are like, you know what? I'm going to show up and I'm going to vote for Donald Trump and I'm going to shut up about it. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris is running ads about how women have to hide their vote from their husbands. It's just simply not the case. The stats and the exit polls state that that's not the case. And in fact, young men are the ones more inclined to be hiding their vote from the rest of the world because they're scared of the repercussions. So massive failure on behalf of the Kamala Harris campaign, on behalf of the Democratic Party, to try and switch the narrative on us as if they're the ones who have to hide, as if they're the ones with no power, as if they're the ones that need to take this country back, when in reality, a lot of fingers are pointing in the other direction indeed. Now, Jake Tapper of CNN calls this the greatest comeback in history alongside Anderson Cooper.
And Anderson, it is hard to think of a political comeback that is actually more significant than this one. I'm tempted to say Richard Nixon, but that really falls short of what Donald Trump has achieved.
Yeah, I mean, winning not just the electoral votes, but the popular vote as well.
And Anderson.
Hard to think of a political comeback greater than this. And that's really what Trump's remarks were when he gave his, shall we call it, victory speech. It hadn't quite been called yet, but just about been called. He said, you know what? I don't think we've seen a political movement like the one we've produced here in a very, very long time. I can't think of one. And we watched, and I remarked on this yesterday, that like the states just kept coming in, things just kept going smoothly. There was no flip-flopping. The New York Times just slowly dialed itself more and more towards Trump, and it went from uncalled to toss-up to leaning Trump to essentially called for Trump time and time and time again. And it was just so... It's really powerful to see these demographics that came out of the woodwork and said, you know what, I don't care anymore. I'm going to vote for him. Black men coming out and saying, I'm going to vote for him. Latinos, after all the stuff about the Puerto Rican joke and how he hates Hispanics and Latinos, coming out and voting for him. The Amish in Pennsylvania, which shout out to Scott Presler, who saw this demographic of over 100,000 voters, nearly 200,000 voters, I think, were registered in the end from the Amish community. And he went to them and said, hey, this guy's rallying for you. He wants you to have more freedom. The Amish people told him, you know what, when we were in Trump's America, things felt lighter. We felt like we could move more freely. As soon as we entered Biden and Harris's economy and America, things just started to squeeze in a little bit. We felt tightened by it, and 180,000 of them registered to vote and decided we're going to show up to the polls in our horse and buggy and vote for Donald J. Trump. I mean, we're just seeing stories that you would have never seen before. It's just insane.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of themes to this campaign. I think like new media versus legacy media, identity politics versus merit. But another major one is just normal people versus elites. And I think I just sent you a little graphic. It looks like Trump gained in every single state except Connecticut and Utah. He made gains over 2020. And because people have been living under the thumb of this, woke orthodoxy being pushed down. And this is just the revolt of normal people. And, even the Amish are feeling the tentacles of this authoritarian leftism reaching into their lives, and that was enough to get them to, like we talked about, like the ants of Lord of the Rings, coming out and joining the fight. And even though they'd rather be neutral, I think a lot of people who just want to be left alone are people who wouldn't have normally seen themselves as right-leaning, aren't necessarily mega Trump fans, but are just like, you know what, this has all gone too far, and I want to push back. I just want to be left alone. And I think this was the American population of normal people just giving a big giant middle finger to the establishment, and that was what they found in Donald Trump, much like 2016. So it's interesting that the establishment, when they took back the reins of power in 2020, doubled down on the identity politics, doubled down on the administrative state, doubled down on the bureaucracy and the authoritarian COVID measures and things like that, and just pushed even harder. And I think that's a lot of the problem, is that the underlying kind of motivating ideology of leftism doesn't have a limiting principle. It wants to dominate the airwaves. There is no, we've seen all these people saying they're cutting off family members and things like that. There's no middle ground. It's like my way or the highway when it comes to the woke worldview. And of course, it was going to push and push and push, and it just pushed too hard. And I think Americans had enough. And that's what we're seeing in these just sweeping, decisive poll results.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, and there's somebody who actually articulates that. Well, Taylor honestly just articulated it perfectly. I don't know that we need to hear it again, but we are going to listen to this news clip. Just an update. We are still waiting on Kamala Harris to appear on stage. I do see this is taking place at the moment. A whole lot of people are getting their phones out. They're waving flags. I've seen a few people appear. Maybe that's her. Yep. There we go. Let's get us in full screen and let's watch. So Kamala Harris is about to concede, it seems. This is her first time addressing the nation since last night's election night. Remember, she left Howard without giving a single word to the crowd. Stunning, brave, courageous, wonderful.
Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Good afternoon. Thank you all. Thank you, thank you. Thank you, thank you. So let me say, and I love you back. And I love you back. So let me say, my heart is full today. My heart is full today, full of gratitude for the trust you have placed in me, full of love for our country, and full of resolve. The outcome of this election is not what we wanted, not what we fought for, not what we voted for, but hear me when I say, the light of America's promise will always burn bright. As long as we never give up, and as long as we keep fighting. To my beloved Doug and our family, I love you so very much. To President Biden and Dr. Biden, thank you for your faith and support.
Questionable.
Governor Walz and the Walz family, I know your service to our nation will continue. And to my extraordinary team, to the volunteers who gave so much of themselves, to the poll workers and the local election officials, I thank you all. Look, I am so proud of the race we ran, and the way we ran it, Over the 107 days of this campaign, we have been intentional about building community and building coalitions, bringing people together from every walk of life and background, united by love of country with enthusiasm and joy in our fight for America's future. And we did it with the knowledge that we all have so much more in common than what separates us. All people, a fight for the ideals at the heart of our nation, the ideals that reflect America at our best. That is a fight we will never give up the fight to protect our schools and our streets from gun violence. And America, we will justice, and for the sacred idea that every one of us, no matter who we are or where we start out, has certain fundamental rights and freedoms that must be respected and upheld. To the young people who are watching, it is...
You are stupid.
Just gonna say.
To the young people who are watching, it is okay to feel sad and disappointed. But please know it's going to be okay. On the campaign, I would often say, when we fight, we win. But here's the thing. Sometimes the fight takes a while. That doesn't mean we won't win. That doesn't mean we won't win. The important thing is don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. Don't ever stop trying to make the world a better place. You have power. You have power. And don't you ever listen when anyone tells you something is impossible because it has never been done before.
Okay, I can vibe with that.
You have the capacity to do extraordinary good in the world. And so to everyone who is watching, do not despair. This is not a time to throw up our hands. This is a time to roll up our sleeves. This is a time to organize, to mobilize, and to stay engaged for the sake of freedom and justice and the future that we all know we can build together. Look, many of you know I started out as a prosecutor, and throughout my career, I saw people at some of the worst times in their lives. People who had suffered great harm and great pain, and yet found within themselves the strength and the courage and the resolve to take the stand, to take a stand, to fight for justice.
Take the stand, a stand.
To fight for themselves.
She has teleprompter 1, 2, 3, and I think maybe a fourth, and that's why her head is pivoting. All this, you can see when she catches it.
Let their determination.
Are the people fighting for justice
charge.
against being prosecuted for minor drug offenses?
A cab.
An historian once called a law of history. True of every society across the ages. The adage is, only when it is dark enough can you see the stars. I know many people feel like we are entering a dark time.
Not me, baby. Not me. Not me.
Of us all, I hope that is not the case. But here's the thing, America, if it is, let us fill the sky with the light of a brilliant, brilliant billion of stars. The light of optimism, of faith, of truth,
Be so for real.
and service.
Truth and service from Kamala Harris. I have lots to say about this message, although I will admit she's doing all right.
And may that work guide us, even in the face of setbacks, toward the extraordinary promise of the United States of America. I thank you all. May God bless you, and may God bless the United States of America. I thank you all.
Okay. Yeah, I think we knew it was going to be short, sweet, to the point. Honestly, as far as the concession speech goes, she did quite all right there, you know? I think that's the best way you could have possibly handled it. She didn't mention anything about, election integrity or making a fraudulent case about this election. She spoke about the work that they will do on the other end of this, about not giving up. She spoke to and addressed young people and young women in particular who really showed up for her. She addressed some of the despair, which we're going to get into in a moment, that a lot of the left is feeling in regard to her losing this. And she walks off with Doug into the sunset. There you go. You know, she tells people to continue fighting, because just because something hasn't been done before doesn't mean it can't be done. And there's no story like that of Kamala Harris that is more exemplary of doing what has never been done before. You know, they told her that the America never had an open border. She said, we can do that. They told her we've never given a sex change to an inmate in prison who has murdered 2 people. And she said, we can do that. They told her, you know, as of late, we're not giving puberty blockers to kids who think they're gender dysphoric and giving them double mastectomies. And she said, yes, we can. When Joe Biden told her in her presidential debate that, Kamala, you can't just become president and take away everybody's guns. She said, Joe, why don't you just say, yes, we can? When they told her, we can't cover up the fact that Joe Biden has late-stage dementia, and maybe we need to let the American people know what's going on behind closed doors. She said, we're going to do what's never been done before. And of course, she tried to attempt what really has never been done before, and that is to become an uber progressive first female president of the United States. And that did not happen. And you know what? It has nothing to do with her being a woman. It has nothing to do with her ethnic background. It has everything to do with her being Kamala Harris. But, you know, if there's one thing I can say, the concession, that was a smooth concession speech. And she said what she needed to say. I think people are going to move on. I think the left is going to be satisfied with what she just said and what they've heard. And I think the right will as well. I mean, I don't see anything necessarily wrong with anything that just came out of her mouth. It's to be expected. Yeah, she had to emphasize the, peaceful transfer of power stuff to kind of, twist that a little bit. But overall, I agree with you. Good speech. I think, I no ill will towards Kamala Harris. I mean, is what it is. I think she will kind of fade into obscurity after this. I don't see much of a political career for her going forward, and it's probably a similar trajectory to like the Hillary Clinton. But yeah, the loyalty to the Constitution stuff kind of fell flat for me based on what you said about her being willing to totally fly in the face of the Constitution by issuing an executive order to ban assault weapons. And, we could list, we've been rehashing everything, all the reasons why Kamala Harris is not fit to be the president, why she would be a bad choice, how flip-floppy and hypocritical and extreme she's been in all her positions. And thankfully, we don't have to talk about that anymore. Yep. And when she first started speaking, it was kind of like this wince, like, oh no, here we go again. It's kind of nails on a chalkboard thing for me. But you know what? It's over. And hey, nice speech. Bye-bye. Be nice to Doug. Hopefully he's not too upset because, but some people get hurt when Doug's upset.
Yeah, exactly. So, bye-bye Kamala, I guess. I see a lot of y'all saying bye Felicia, but I don't know. Do you think her political career is over?
Yeah, I don't know. What would be next from here. I mean, typically you want to travel up in your political career, not back down again. So I'm not sure whether or not she's going to try to take on a different position. Honestly, I'm not sure if it's for her at this point. We're seeing a lot of Democrat representatives, officials, White House staffers, former White House staffers coming out and saying she should have never been the pick in the first place. So if that's the general feeling that they have towards her, I do have a feeling there's maybe some underlying animosity for her stepping up into this position and thinking that she could take on the presidential candidacy. So is that going to influence her political career moving forward? I don't know. Maybe they'll sort of put her somewhere else because she's a shoo-in among leftists who feel like they want retribution for not having her become president. But I don't know. I don't know.
Maybe I could see them, if they need a black female attorney general in a future Democratic administration or Supreme Court justice or something like that.
Good point.
She's got the identity politics in her favor. So I guess it's never over. But hopefully, given that this election was a massive referendum on identity politics, the Democrats will move away from that and not be choosing candidates and choosing appointments based on arbitrary sex and, sex characteristics or race characteristics or whatever. But I'm not holding my breath for that one. But fortunately, for the next 4 years, we don't really have to think about that too much.
Yeah, we'll see. I don't think they've learned their lesson just yet, although some of them have, and we'll get to them later on in the show. Now, the thing about Kamala Harris's concession speech, she made it very clear. I know that you guys feel despair. I know that many of you are angry. I know that many of you are shocked by these results. Calm down. It's going to be okay. And this is a concession speech we should have gotten last night, but Kamala Harris pulled a Hillary Clinton and decided, I'm going to leave, go home, go to bed without even addressing the crowd that gathered to see me here tonight, which is not the most courageous move in the world. Even if you weren't willing to concede just right then and there that night and it hadn't been called yet, you didn't feel comfortable with doing that, you still could have come out to address the thousands of people who gathered for your watch party to see you that night. Instead, she sent out some campaign surrogate, a man, to speak for her, essentially, which is just, if you want to give the people who are against you because you're a woman more ammunition for that attack on you, send out a man to speak in your place after you've lost a race. Again, she pulled a Hillary Clinton. Bad move, in my opinion, but that's what she did. She should have told people to calm down and hold off their reactions right then and there. But because she didn't, we got so many insane reactions. As soon as I got the election night results, I went over to TikTok. There are leftists everywhere melting down, crying, screaming, throwing up, puking, dying. I don't know what it is, telling us they're gonna deport us, kill us, they want us dead, that we are misogynist, sexist, racist, xenophobic pigs. And today we're gonna go through some of the top leftist meltdowns from Trump winning the 2024 election, starting with this one, heavy hitter, only 15 seconds. Let's hear it.
I'm sorry. No! Why? Why? Do you really hate me that bad? I'm sorry. No!
Okay. Come back. This is some... Halloween is over. Halloween is over. What is happening right now? What am I watching? This is crazy. And I had to think about this in all of my reactions because it's like something about this is funny. Like that's a really crazy tantrum to have in the wake of an election result. And it makes you kind of, it's kind of funny to see people who hate you kind of cry a little bit and have this moment of realization that their ideology is not going to be pushed forward into the world. But also you're living among us. You are out there just trolloping around all over the town, and this kind of crazy is existing. I have never in my 24 years of life seen a conservative respond like this to election results. And maybe there's something out there, you guys can maybe pull videos for me, but the just pure and utter chaos outrage that I witnessed on TikTok after this happened was insane. It was every video. Scroll, screaming, scroll, crying, scroll, on the bathroom floor in fetal position, rocking back and forth about your right to have an abortion. Girls talking about how they're gonna break up with their boyfriends, or women saying that they want black men to die, which we're gonna get to in just a moment. Absolutely bonkers. Something's loose. Open the asylums. What is going on?
I just gotta say, like, there's another theme of this election is like the people who are grounded in reality and common sense, and people who are grounded in media narratives. And if you've been drinking in and your whole world has been these narratives of, Trump's a Nazi and the people who support him are racist, misogynists, and he's going to be a dictator on day one and all this, like, I guess she's at least acting consistently with the narratives that she believes, but they are very much not in tune with reality. So, you've talked about in your transformation, the cognitive dissonance that you experience when your worldview just doesn't line up with truth and doesn't line up with reality, doesn't line up with real people who are living real lives. And when you have that story of when you got pulled over and you were terrified of the cop and he actually ended up treating you very nice. And, when I'm hoping that these narratives are burst, and as she maybe comes down from this moment of seething insanity and realizes that, hey, the sun still came up. No one's coming after you. No one's trying to, force you to live a Handmaid's Tale life or anything like that, some sanity will be restored. But in the meantime, I guess we'll just kind of let her be.
Yeah, even then, even if you somehow do not restore your sanity, I have 2 words for you: digital footprint. Do you want this mental breakdown on the world, just out there in the world for everybody to see? Imagine submitting a job application and they look you up on social media and you're screaming in your car over election results. You're crazy. You're crazy. Okay. This next one, this trans person is practicing to be a girl in case they lose their rights. So I can't play the music here because I'm not trying to get no copyright claims on this channel. So we're going to watch. I guess this is apparently a girl who thinks that they're a boy. So as a means of covering up that identity, which don't worry, I clocked it immediately. They're putting on makeup to pretend to be the biological sex that they are, because because Trump is going to, hunt them down. What? I don't understand what they think is going to happen on the other end of Trump winning this election. I mean, presumably this person is an adult, which means you have every right to do whatever it is you want to do with your body, your self-expression, what you call yourself. You don't have the right to tell me what to call you, and you never did. But pretty much your life is not changing moving forward. So now you're practicing being a girl, changing to, I guess, feminine clothes. So that what? For what on the other end of this? Please, the cosplaying of oppression that is taking place in the United States of America needs to be studied and needs to be stopped. You guys are doing too much. Nobody is trying to come after you for being trans. Nobody is trying to tell you that you can't do this thing with your body and you can't express yourself in this way. Now, if you're under the age of 18 and you want to go to a doctor and have them cut your tits off, then maybe we're gonna say, wait a second, get some help. Let's get some other help other than the double mastectomy. But I'm pretty sure baby girl right here is fine. You're gonna live through this.
Yeah, the girls are dressing up as girls, so nature is healing. But the whole time I'm watching that, I was just picturing that Joker meme where he's putting on the makeup and looking in the mirror. And that would have been more appropriate for the actual tone and lack of self-awareness and delusion that is in this TikTok.
Oh my gosh, be so for real. There's so many outlandish claims about Trump. But here's one where this girl says she's not going to forget if you voted for Donald Trump, and they will come after you in the future. You will not be able to run. You will not be able to hide.
I will make it my life's mission, my dying wish, that none of you weirdos can hide in the future. You can't lie to your kids. You can't lie to your grandkids about, it was so confusing. It was hard to see the truth. He was so convincing. I will not let you get away with that. That was not normal. This is not normal. I will make it clear to everyone. I will make sure no one is confused about how things were right now in this very vital, crucial time in American history, that it was not confusing. It was not confusing at all. You just stood for that. You stood with that and for that. I can't emphasize enough, there will be nowhere to hide, and history is going to look back on this and look back on you in a very negative light. I will.
Oh, the absolute delusions of grandeur that are taking place in this young woman's brain. Trust, baby girl, we're not confused. I know exactly what I voted for, who I voted for. His name is Donald J. Trump. I know why I voted for him. I stand 10 toes down on the fact that I voted for him, and I will 50 years from now. And I believe the caption on this on TikTok said, just like your German predecessors, is what she's saying. So she's saying, you guys are the Nazis of today. And at one point, Nazism was acceptable. But then the world came after Nazis, and that's what we're going to do to Trump supporters who voted for him in this year's election. I can't stress this enough. You're crazy. And this attitude they don't recognize is exactly why Trump is the president of the United States right now. It is this rhetoric. It is this embodiment of leftism. It is this moral superiority. It's this delulu idea that you have of the right in this country, of independence in this country, of free-thinking people in this country that has led to the Trump rise. So you're only going to get more of it on the other end of this. And I'm assuming that this is like a college-educated, white, young woman, which is the main demographic that voted for Kamala Harris anyway, kind of the lone demographic that did not move in the direction of Trump. So maybe you have some reconciling to do about why you are the lone demographic that didn't move points up for Donald Trump, and why in your lonely group you're having trouble understanding why other people have. The pure lack of recognition that takes place among this demographic in particular needs to be studied. And you know what? Even the woke leftists of yesterday's time, the Malcolm X's of the world, had something to say about white liberals and could sort of recognize something in this temperament that signaled to him like, oh, maybe these people aren't the most helpful people to be in allyship with. And he was onto something for damn sure, because I'm listening to them and it's some of the most racist, disgusting, delusional, grandiose language I've ever heard in my life, and they have no recognition of it. It is just like dead stare, blank face, saying it straight to camera with all the audacity, all the gall they have in them, and they believe it 100%.
And she said, like, history will be looking back at you guys in a negative light. I think history will be looking back at these young single white women who have been voting and supporting to try to import millions of people into the country, including rapists and murderers who've been propping up this senile candidate with lies, who made this sole focus of this election cycle about abortion, and who have been supportive of an ideology that is ending up putting children on puberty blockers and lopping off their breasts. I think that side is going to be, that demographic is more likely to be looked at on the wrong side of history than the people who voted against all that and trying to get out of it and back to sanity.
Yep. And it's interesting that they're just never going to do that exploration. And this is so indicative of leftism in itself. It is never your fault. There's no accountability. You take no responsibility for your actions and the way those actions impact the world. They're always looking for somebody to blame. They're always projecting it outward. They're always viewing themselves as the oppressed person in whatever conflict it is that befalls them. And it leads to this. And I'm telling you, there's going to be more Trump voters on the other end of this, or I should say Republican voters, since he's not doing another term and can't do another term after this, because of the things you're saying right now. Just keep your digital footprint exists and people are listening. Now this next one's even worse. Okay, this is a woman addressing Latino men, Black men, because these are demographic groups that showed out for Donald Trump and gained him points in this election. What you're going to hear, just keep your ears open, because this is crazy.
I might get some violations and I may offend some people with what I'm going to say, and I don't give a fuck. To all you Latinos that voted for Trump, I hope he mass deports you and your entire family. Whether you were here legally or not, you gotta go. I hope he does that. To you Black men who your fragile ego couldn't take a Black woman in office, so you either voted for Trump or you didn't vote at all, the police will now have carte blanche to murder you right where the fuck you stand. And when they do that, there's not going to be no GoFundMes. Don't ask your family to ask us for shit. Just die. They can't afford to bury you. Dig a hole in their backyard. It is what the fuck it is. But don't expect sympathy. Don't expect protest in the streets. We're not doing that. Black women, we're done. We're done. We did our due diligence for this century and the next. We've done enough. We're not doing anymore. To you white women that once again voted against your fucking interests, when your husbands start knocking you into the middle of fucking next week and you can't do anything about it because no fault divorce is in play, I want you to take those black eyes and those busted lips as a personal thank you from Donald J. Trump each and every time you get fucking hit. Take it. Don't look for nobody else. Don't ask for fucking help. Take your beatings. For all of y'all that voted for Trump, I hope you get exactly what you voted for. Because the only thing he did was make America great for the people that it was great for from the fucking beginning, white men. That's what he did. He couldn't run the risk of whiteness no longer being the default, not being allowed to fail up. So when you're bleeding out somewhere and there's a medical emergency and you can't get no fucking help, women who voted for him, don't take it. You just gotta die. If you got kids, they just gonna be motherless. It is what the fuck it is. You didn't give a fuck, so we don't give a fuck. That's how it is. This isn't America anymore. I don't know what the fuck it is, but it's not going to be America. And if you think that Trump is going to be in that office for 4 years, you're fucking insane. Because we about to be in a real live action episode of fucking Scandal. Because your next president is not Donald Trump, it's J.D. Vance. Because trust and believe, within a year, you're not going to see Trump anymore. He's either going to be, and they're going to say it's illness or he died in his sleep, it's natural causes because he's fucking old enough. Or they just going to let him spaz out and do the 25th. And that's when we're really going to be in the Handmaid's Tale. So I really hope all of you who voted for him, you get exactly what the fuck you deserve.
You're crazy. This got over 200,000 likes on it, by the way. 217,000 likes as of watching it right now on TikTok. These people are crazy. Open the asylums. And is this rhetoric that you would typically associate with leftism? She's calling out Latinos, saying that they should be deported. She's telling black men she hopes they die at the hand of police officers. She's telling women that she hopes that they are victims of domestic violence and sexual assault at the hands of men, because that is what they voted for and that's what they deserve to experience. Now, does that sound like leftism to you? I mean, to me, it sounds awfully familiar. It does sound like leftism, but this is often the picture that they try to paint of Republicans and Republicanism, but they are the manifestation of it. They are the embodiment of racism, sexism, homophobia, xenophobia, and you heard it here first, folks, right from her mouth, from all these marginalized communities that they claim to want to protect. She said she hopes you get deported, die, and you get abused by your husbands, get given black eyes and busted lips. Have you ever heard a conservative say this to a leftist for voting for Joe Biden? Did you ever hear a Republican say, I hope your daughter gets killed by an immigrant or your kid transitions and then regrets it? No, you've never heard it. You've never heard them say that, because they don't say that. They just go on about their days and say, you know what? Please don't mess with my way of life. Please do not tell me what it is that I should think, what I should say, and please do not infringe on my right. That's it. That's it. That's all they do. And now they're calling for your death, deportation, and your beating.
And you know what? It's un-American. Everything that she says is it's a foreign mindset, a foreign ideology that is nothing like we've ever seen in America until about the last 20. I mean, you've had extremists and craziness, but it's never reached this level of ubiquity. It's never been something that you hear from so many people and so many prominent people as well, of this like total desire to punish people for voting the wrong way, wishing ill on people who disagree with you politically. Like, I want 0 women who voted for Kamala to be victims of domestic violence, and I never would. That's just common sense. That's just common decency. But that goes out the window when you believe your opponents are fundamentally evil, when you adopt this worldview and this ideology that says that, you know, there's one right way of thinking, and it's this woke, you know, oppressor oppressed Marxist dynamic of seeing the world, and that stuff is foreign. And I think, again, this election was about rejecting what is foreign to the actual American values, the American identity that you and I grew up with, that we've known for so long, and really, you know, destroying this woke mind virus that has infected the minds of so many people in our country, and that's been piped in through our media, piped in through Hollywood, piped in through the elites and the celebrity class. And it's been this thing that's been forced on the American people. And I think they've just finally had enough and are pushing back against that. And what you're seeing now is the actual vitriol coming out, the actual, it's rearing its actual ugly head. The mask is coming off, and you're seeing what the results of this ideology is doing to people and what it is in its bare bones, and the actual American ethics of American values about pluralism and building consensus and using nonviolence. And again, people always say, you know, oh, America has so many issues. Yeah, when we can look at those and we can be honest about them, but adopting this other worldview that is so divisive and so corrosive and so toxic is not the answer. It's fundamentally anti-American.
Yeah, it absolutely is. And I mean, yeah, so is the Kamala Harris campaign in so many ways. We're going to read a few of your super chats before we get into more of these leftist meltdowns. From Raquel Foreman, she writes, today's a beautiful day. Thank you, Amal and Taylor, for touching so many people's young and old. You both are a huge part of the movement and of truth and common sense. Why are her neck veins protruding? LOL. Anywho, love ya both. Daddy Trump is love you both. Daddy Trump is home, baby. Appreciate that. Thank you so much, Raquel. And yeah, I guess who's saying that? Tucker Carlson. You know, when daddy needs to come home and give you a spanking or whatever, that weird speech that he gave. That was so strange. So weird. Anyways, Allison Williams says, I'm praying for the shining light on truth from now on. As conservatives, we need to be empathetic and show with our actions just how wrong the media has been. Praying Kamala realizes how she could be without being who she could be without being a puppet as well. She was made for more. Yeah, we'll see if she goes on that realization.
What she can be unburdened by what has been of her puppetry.
Yes. Yes, Allison, it's possible. Jen Schmer says, when you live in a bubble, it's painful when it pops. It's giving 2016 vibes, LOL. Yep, and I know because I was one of these in 2016. Not that aggressive and crazy and weird, but one of them, definitely. You got to see what the majority feels about you and your candidate. Thanks to all the rural Americans who came out to vote. Yes, shout out to everybody who showed up and casted their ballot in the name of Donald J. Trump. Now let's watch this girl. This is a new movement emerging among young women after this election night.
This is all prank, right? Like we're just gonna wake up tomorrow morning and everything's gonna go back to the way it'll be a psych. It'll be like a really bad dream, and none of this will have ever happened, right? No. Like it'll be like the first time, and then we're all gonna pull through fine in 4 years. Correct? Please, someone tell me. I can tell you one thing right now, marriage is the farthest thing from on the table currently. So they screwed the pooch on that one if they thought that any of this was going to actually help with the whole family and kids department and lowering birth rates, because not even any semblance of thoughts I had or hope for that is completely going to be a no thanks for me, love. I think I would ever even dare bring a child into this country now? It was rough before. Now? No. That's cute. And the men, don't even get me started about dating. To think I was still entertaining a few moderates here and there sometimes. No, honey, no. Not even close. That's never. Goodbye.
She was even entertaining a few moderates here and there. No, it's never gonna happen. Bye. Girl, okay. First of all, it's gonna be okay. I have a feeling that this young woman will probably go on to be in a relationship, probably get married, and probably have children, as is the natural progression of most female adult lives. But I'll let her have her moment where she, I guess, proclaims that's not going to happen. Even if that's what she wants. She doesn't want to get married. She doesn't want to have kids. That's okay. Republicans are not fighting to force all of you to get married and to have children. They're not fighting to necessarily push you in that direction, although it probably would be healthier for you and lead to less moments like this if that was the life that you go on to take on. But if that's not what you want, it's not what you want. I think if anything, conservatives are trying to place the world, the U.S., its economy in a better position for women who do want to go on to have children, who want to stay home with those kids, who want to take care of them, who wants to get married. If that's not something you want to do, trust you don't have to do it. And I don't know that this is the best selling point for yourself on the marriage market anyways. So yeah, I mean, it's tough. I don't know that like men are like, oh, darn it, she's not getting married anymore. I was really thinking it was gonna be Trump hater 6342 on TikTok, but now she's saying she's not gonna get married anymore. I think we're okay. I think it's gonna be fine.
I don't think the men were lining up with, especially with that attitude, and this video is probably not doing her any favors. But as we said before, no malice, no ill will. I hope this woman does end up finding the love of her life and does end up chilling out and does end up wanting family and coming around to a more moderate lifestyle, which she now so detests.
Yeah, or I hope she finds the leftist man of her dreams. I hope she finds the communist of her dreams, and no more moderates ever again in her life. And you know what? I do wish these people love and happiness. I feel like there's just something missing. I don't know, like love and happiness. Here's another compilation of some moments. This is literally my whole TikTok For You page right now. If you just scroll, it's one after the other. I guess I'm just glad that like when 2016 happened and I was crying over Trump, I didn't have the propensity to hop online and like make a video about it, nor did we have TikTok at the time. So So glad that I escaped that reality for myself. Not that I feel
being
like
able to react to that now, though.
Yeah,
oh
I
my
know.
gosh, that would be a gold mine for
If
views.
only-
Selfishly as producer, I'm
Yeah.
like, I wish we had that.
If only I had a video of my old self crying. I was much more demure, much more mindful about where I cried. I was crying in the privacy of my own home and not posting it out on the internet for people to see, okay?
What the fuck? Bitch! You fuck! What the hell?
Okay, that's enough. I don't know. I'm like, I've definitely had some crash outs in my adulthood. You know, you get in a heated argument, you maybe let out a yell or so, you raise your voice. Never that in my adult life. Never have I ever experienced that at all. Never. I don't think I've ever. Have you ever done that, Taylor, in your adult life? You ever just be like, I have so much rage right now, I need to let it out. Rage room. I need to scream into a pillow or just like out into the air as loud as you can, maybe in the privacy of your own car. Have you ever?
No. If I'm playing video games or something and I get killed too many times in Halo and I get mad, I'll like, hit the table. That's one of my major faults, or I'll yell something. But that's about as big of an anger outburst as I think I ever do. I've never needed like a padded room to scream in. And again, I go back to just the groundedness. If you are not grounded in reality, if you're not grounded in healthy relationships, if you don't touch grass on a regular basis, you're going to be more susceptible to having your entire world melting down when you don't get your way and when your ideology is on the chopping block, as it has been on this election.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah, that was our compilation of crazy TikToks, guys. I mean, there's more to come. What an interesting time to be alive. Now we're going to move on to interesting tweets.
Real quick, we just got a $50 super chat here from Rochelle again, who says, someone on TikTok said Latinos who voted someone on TikTok said Latinos who voted for Papa T had everything handed. My parents were deported in 2009. I was 16, youngest of 4. I'm now 31. I was almost homeless 3 times. Just got my AA and BA next year.
Nice.
I support my parents financially. Guess I had it easy.
Yeah, that's the thing that they tend to do. If they hear an opinion they don't like or get a result they don't like, they tend to attribute it to some sort of privilege from the other people who have maybe led to the result that they're now taking in. And more often than not, it's a misguided generalization to make about the people who made those choices. I think a lot of the people who voted for Trump were really just kind of down and out, despondent about the way that society is currently going. They have less money in their pocket. They feel the government's sort of tightening the belt around them in a lot of ways. They feel like their family is suffering in the current state of education, of governance, of our institutions. And that's not necessarily a privilege. Now, is it? And they made their voices heard by voting for Donald Trump. Now, of course, X has been a platform that has been pivotal to this election for the free-flowing information from independent media outlets, from just everyday Americans who are able to post on the platform with free speech in mind, with the way that we communicate with one another. But there have been some insane X responses to Donald Trump winning this election. Let's read some of them today. Number 1, Cowboy Parker says, gay marriage, gone. Police brutality, legalized. Palestine, gone. Abortion, gone. Social Security, gone. Welfare programs, gone. Pharmaceuticals, skyrocketed. Supreme Court, red for 40 more years. House of Representatives, red. Senate, red. What else am I missing? 260,000 likes. I don't know at what point did Trump put in his platform that he's getting rid of gay marriage, legalizing police brutality, ridding the world of Palestinians, and making abortion banned. I mean, I could go on. The list is pretty lengthy on this one, but none of this has ever been said. It hasn't happened. Nobody has advocated that these things do take place. I'm pretty sure you're going to be fine. And this is the thing, the leftists are going to feel peak despair in this moment of realization that he's won the election, but it should be a roller coaster that only goes up from here, because none of this stuff is going to happen. Are they going to have any recognition of that now? I don't know. This next one is my analysis of the voting so far. America, 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 dumb fuckistan. interesting, not only that you associate a vast majority of the country being dumber than the 3 or 4 small points that you identified on the map that decided to vote for Kamala Harris. I'll go back to that county clip we watched at the start of the show where Kamala Harris did not beat out Joe Biden's numbers in 2020 in a single county or district. Not a single one. But the red here is dumb fuckistan. Okay. That's really interesting. It's also really interesting that you're a leftist and you put Istan at the end of that. Why'd you feel the need to associate Arab and Muslim countries with people who voted for Donald Trump? It seems a little bit racist. Seems a little bit like you are xenophobic and you hate Muslims and Arabs. But free Palestine. Free Palestine, guys. Moving on. We have to have a very, very uncomfortable conversation about Latino voters in this country. And a lot of people quote tweeted this or replied underneath it that Latinos are uneducated, stupid, misogynistic, and that they should be deported. Again, it's sounding a little racist. You want to have a very uncomfortable conversation about a specific racial demographic in your country? I'm hearing something that sounds an awful lot like the KKK, something that sounds an awful lot like white nationalism, something that sounds an awful lot, awful Hitlerian, I guess, is what these are the words we're throwing out at Donald Trump, so might as well play the game and throw them back in your direction. Latino voters are gonna have a lot to say, and so much as this, rhetoric continues, if they continue to speak about Latino voters and Latino men in particular, in the wake of this election, in the same way that they're doing now, we can expect a whole nother surge 4 years from now in our next presidential election, because it is disgusting the way that they're being spoken about.
And that has how many likes? I think all of these have tens or hundreds of thousands of likes. These aren't just like random extreme tweets. These were the things that were going viral on leftist Twitter yesterday as people are trying to cope with and process the outcome of the election.
Yes, fair point. Let's look at the likes here. 518,000 likes. Okay, 24 million views on this tweet. So that shows you the scope at which people believe these things and are seconding these messages. Let's move on. Never underestimate the power of large groups of stupid people. He was the worst president of the United States in history, impeached twice, convicted felon, tried to stage a coup, sold state secrets, but hey, at least he isn't an intelligent black woman. 275,000 likes. Black woman is questionable when it comes to Kamala Harris. We all know that now. And we all know the lawfare that you utilized against Donald Trump. We all know that you had the system pitted against him at every opportunity you could. And that's what led to the 2 impeachments and the 34 different conviction counts that he got out of his New York trial. And, it led to a whole lot of other things in regard to Donald Trump. And again, no accountability for the different things you've listed in this tweet and how your actions played into his triumph. Instead, we blame it all on him. We've labeled him as something, and I can't believe the labels didn't work. I can't believe our propaganda about this man was not sold to the American people, that they didn't eat it up and pay us for it. But instead, they made him the president of the United States. And I'm telling you, Trump better stay under lock and key, under wraps, in a bunker up until we certify this and get him inaugurated, because there's hitters out, there's shooters out for Donald Trump right now, if I had to guess. Another one. This man lost to Biden, lost by a lot. If you think that this is anything other than misogyny at play, you're lying to yourself. She is the most qualified candidate on years. She is viciously intelligent and driven. She is losing ground with men, Latinos, and black voters. And this has 572,000 likes. Yes, it's your misogyny that led to Kamala Harris losing this election, not anything else. Not the fact that if she had been run in a primary, she wouldn't have made it out alive and would have been definitely passed on for some other candidate. But of course, she is the most qualified candidate on years for the position. Next, someone who worked in all 3 branches of government is losing to a reality TV host. It sucks to suck. I don't know what else to tell you about that. The Americans were looking for a change, and Donald Trump delivered that change. Again, no accountability to be taken. Next one, y'all worried about the price of eggs. I'm worried if I'll be legally defined as a human being tomorrow. We are not the same. 397,000 likes. This person is a trans individual, so I guess they don't know if they're going to be a human being tomorrow. I'm pretty sure being trans does not disqualify you from being a human being. You will still be associated and labeled as such, and you don't have to worry about that. Now, doesn't mean that everybody's going to use your Lorax Neo pronouns. No, doesn't exactly mean that, but you still are going to exist, and you are most definitely defined as a human being. And in fact, there's many trans people who are very supportive of Donald Trump and who helped him win this race. As we said, 1 in 5 self-identified LGBT people ended up showing up to the polls and voting for Donald Trump. So what do you have to say about that? Alex says the only thing America hates more than a rapist is a woman. Oh my gosh. Guys, I don't know what to do about this. I'm trying to, remain generous, charitable in response to some of these things. This one got 832,000 likes, by the way. So the only thing that America hates more than a rapist is a woman. And it just shows the black and white way in which they view human beings. Funnily enough, they say that conservatives don't view them as human beings, but the way that you view human beings is so superficial. They literally see Donald Trump man, Donald Trump rapist, which highly, highly, highly debatable, contestable. And then they see Kamala Harris woman. And then they do the woke math of intersectionality. Woman, black, ethnic, must be harder life than man, but still vying for same position, therefore she must win over man. So that's how we get statements like the only thing America hates more than a rapist is a woman. Oh my gosh. Do I have any more of these? Yes, I do. I have more. But wait, there's more. If you call now. Now that Trump might become president again, Palestinians will no longer exist. Ukraine will be taken over by Russia. Russia will attempt to move further into Europe. We will be paying $3,000 more per year because of Trump's tariffs. Our taxes will stay the same, but don't worry because Elon Musk will see his taxes go down. Women will no longer have access to healthcare. Mass deportation of both illegal and legal immigrants. Terrible for economy. $6 trillion will be added to the debt compared to Harris, who was only going to add $2 trillion. Okay. And the leader of our country is a sexual abuser, pedophile. Where did that come from? Rapist. Where did that come from? Racist, who tried to overthrow our government. Really good job, guys. 647,000 likes on that. I don't have the time, guys. I don't have the time. If you don't get why this tweet is problematic for all things we've gone through on today's show, I don't know what to tell you. I'm just wondering, like, even some of these are more preposterous than what the media has been saying about Donald Trump leading up to this election. I mean, like, we're getting Hitler comparisons from some of these outlets. Where are they getting these ideas of what Trump is going to do? I think they're honestly extrapolating on what the media has said and just fueling and throwing gasoline on the alarmism that we've already received from our legacy outlets. Because honestly, a lot of this is just lies at this point. They're just literally putting lies out there on the internet to, I don't know what to achieve, to rile people up, to fearmonger. To what end, I don't know. Like, what do you want people to do?
Yeah, I almost pity the people that are posting these things. I mean, they're horrible, but it takes, I hate to say it, but like a certain gullibility or weak-mindedness to really accept these narratives so vociferously and so catastrophically and going even beyond what the media says. And I think the media bears a lot of culpability in perpetuating a lot of these narratives, as you said, with, calling Trump Hitler and all the race and all this stuff. But my goodness, like it's almost like you've been recruited into a cult and you're not aware yet, and it's like we need to have an intervention with these people. That's like, no, hey, we're just your neighbors, your coworkers, your family members, your former friends that you cut out of your life. We don't want to make you wear a Handmaid's Tale outfit. We're not going to be rounding up the gays. We're not trying to violate your civil rights or anything like that. We literally just want to live and let live. And, you know, this ideology that you bought into kind of went a little too far on the authoritarianism, a little too far on importing massive numbers of people into the country, a little too far on the gender ideology and madness. It was actually kind of harming people. And, you know, I'm kind of slipping into, you know, that crazy girl who does the gentle parenting on TikTok.
Yeah, right.
Like, I don't want to, you know, sound like so condescending, but it's like, how do you have this conversation with somebody who's gone in hook, line, and sinker into this fanciful ideology, this total, you know, catastrophizing worldview, and just say, you know what, it's okay. You can come out. The world's the sun is shining. The world is not, you know, this you know, nuclear pandemonium. You're going to be okay. And I don't want to sound condescending, but man, I feel like that's almost what these people need right now.
Right. And they're only going to recognize this with time. They just have to, I guess, live through what it is they're going to experience, which is a Trump presidency. Here's hoping, so long as nothing happens between now and January. But only time is going to tell you what we're trying to tell you right now. And it's so interesting because this seems to be just what we run into on any given moment. It's like we're looking at the wokeness in the DEI and we're like, only time is going to tell you what I'm trying to tell you right now, but this is a bad idea. We're looking at Joe Biden running for president. We're saying, I'm pretty sure that man has dementia. I don't think he's capable of being president of the United States, but only time is going to tell you, although I'm trying to tell you right now it's a bad idea. We're saying don't run Kamala Harris. I'm telling you guys that's a bad idea. It's not going to work out for you. And now we're saying you're going to be fine under a Trump presidency. It's a bad idea what you're sharing right now, and you're going to, only time is going to tell you. So I guess we'll wait. Last one here. Jojo says, when you bitches are paying $18 for eggs and being paid pennies working in the fields because there's no one else to do it, and your kids work factory jobs because there is no school to attend, and shit like leprosy comes back, I hope you'll remember how hard you owned the libs. 81,000 likes on that. I don't know what to tell you.
I wanted the illegal immigrants to stay so they could pick our strawberries.
Right.
Like, tell me you're racist without telling me. Oh my
gonna
gosh.
clean your toilet, Donald Trump? It's literally the entirety of the energy that the left is giving right now is whatever that girl's name is, Kelly Osborne. Who's going to be cleaning your toilets, Donald Trump? They're all now talking about like working in the fields, picking berries and doing people's laundries. Who was it that like Van Jones, I think, said that they're working at your laundromat and cleaning your teeth at the dentist or whatever? Okay, very interesting how things are now switching up and how people are talking about them. And they're not taking at least Kelly Osborne was like, oh no, I meant, in the sense that they're not doing the in the sense that they're just standing 10 toes down on their view of Latinos and immigrants, which is crazy. Okay, we're moving on from tweets. The Kamala Harris campaign was really, it seems, best known for its celebrity endorsements. And now that she has lost the election, the celebrities are coming out in full force to tell you how they really feel about it. First up, we have Cardi B. Cardi B gave an interesting endorsement. She got up on stage. She couldn't read the teleprompter. She didn't really know what was going on. She couldn't do an impromptu speech, so she had to wait till a phone was handed to her. She read her speech, and she said that Kamala Harris told me to my face she was going to fix the economy by going after price gouging. So that's why I'm here endorsing her. Well, now that Kamala Harris has lost, here's what Cardi B has to say, and she has a filter on her face. That's fun.
This is why some of y'all states be getting hurricanes. That's all I'm gonna say.
Okay. This is why some of y'all states be getting hurricanes. As we all know, the hurricanes sort of hit the southeastern portion of the United States, part of the belt we'd say that Trump took in and won during this election. And Cardi B, hundreds of people died. So is this really what we want to be talking about right now? This is why some of y'all states be getting hurricanes. If I remember correctly, there was people of all different backgrounds, all different ages who had their houses completely taken to the ground, trees falling on them. They were swept away in their cars. They were drowning in flash floods. They were attempting to save their neighbors without asking what their political affiliation was first. We had massive loss of just like wildlife, community loss, pillars of the community just completely taken out, community centers, schools, and in the wake of you losing a sudden like flash endorsement of Kamala Harris, to be honest. You say this is why certain states get hurricanes. Now, if you were thinking Cardi B is not the person that I go for particularly intelligent takes, you're right in thinking that, and you can remain consistent in that opinion of her, because that seems to be her take about this election.
Yeah, and I mean, she didn't talk about climate change, which I guess is a more credible line of attack, but it seems like this is just, you're getting this out of some bad karma for supporting the wrong person who I deem to be immoral. But I'm old enough to remember back in 2005 or so when Hurricane Katrina hit, I believe it was, and the televangelist Pat Robertson went on TV and was like, this is the judgment of God on New Orleans for the sin that's going on. And of course, it was like an outrageous statement, and the whole country was, up in arms about saying something like that. And here you have Cardi B pretty much saying the same thing, that because conservatives, people in certain states supported Donald Trump, that they're getting hurricanes as some sort of cosmic retribution for doing so. At least that's how I'm reading it. Yep. Interestingly, she also had tweeted earlier in the night as the election seemed to be slipping away from Kamala, that they need a Hail Mary. So she seemed to be invoking some sort of divine help there, but is quick to distribute divine judgment to people who disagree with her politically, evidently.
Yeah, thanks, Cardi. Appreciate it. We can move on from her. There's nothing really to be gained from her commentary on this. Billie Eilish shares new Instagram story following Donald Trump's win. It's a war on women. I mean, I think the only thing that they have to substantiate this is that it's a woman who lost, and that they think their repro rights are going to be just blown off into the wind rather than states deciding where they stand on abortion. So if you qualify that as a war on women, I guess it's a war on women. Never mind the women that voted for Trump. In pretty large numbers in some demographics. It's a war on women. Billie Eilish doesn't even understand the average life of an American woman. So I don't even know how she would qualify what a war is on women. She gave some of the most lackluster endorsements of Kamala Harris I've seen in quite some time. And in comparison to every other celebrity that she trotted out on stage at her rallies, we watched as her and Phineas took to TikTok to tell people to vote for Kamala with the straightest, most despairing faces you've ever seen in your entire life. I don't think she was particularly enthusiastic about a Kamala Harris presidency. And if she wasn't good at acting it out in her endorsement. So that's Billie Eilish. On the other hand, we have Jack Antonoff. You'll know him as a singer-songwriter and producer. He works with the likes of Taylor Swift, Lana Del Rey, Lorde. He's been all over the place. He's married to Margaret Qualley, who was just featured in The Substance. She's a really well-known actress. He states here, "To my people, we turn to each other at the best of times as we do at the worst times. Our community is alive because we lift and take care of each other. We are not moved by bullshit. When we're afraid, we lean on each other. Right now, we are going to do exactly that. We are going to be there for each other. Do not be cynical. Do not have the conversation alone in your head. Go be together. Be around those who do not assume the worst of you. Fight for the rights of oppressed people. Respect the earth and its creatures. Live with the most dignity, and remember that every tiny thing is carried on. As always, the ally coalition's work does not rest. As always, our people do not rest and know greater strength and joy than those who put others down." So it's very interesting that in one sentence he says, be around those who do not assume the worst of you. And then he goes on to assume the worst of every single person who voted for Donald Trump. Oh my gosh. It's so crazy. They accuse people of being racist, then they're racist in the accusation. They accuse people of being sexist, and then they say this is a war on women, effectively being sexist towards the women who voted for Donald Trump. They say, go be around people who do not assume the worst of you, and then they assume the worst of everybody who doesn't agree with them. And Jack Antonoff is no exception to that. Soy. Okay, next, LeBron James. LeBron James says he'll have to protect his daughter with Donald Trump winning the election. Meanwhile, Kamala Harris and the Democratic Party have endorsed have no issues with men competing in women's sports and can't even define what a woman is. Yeah, I mean, we'd have to protect women far more if Kamala Harris was the president of the United States. I'm not sure exactly how he's going to have to protect his daughter. I'm assuming this is yet another abortion narrative, which we're hearing from celebrities everywhere. They're all concerned about their daughters getting pregnant and needing an abortion. Christina Applegate said this. Why? Give me your reasons why. My child is sobbing because her right as a woman may be taken away. Why? And if you disagree, please unfollow me. 194,000 likes on this. Let me remind you, Christina Applegate's daughter is 13 years old. Her 13-year-old daughter is sobbing because she's worried that her rights as a woman may be taken away. What have you been telling your 13-year-old daughter that is leading her to sob in the midst of gaining election results? 13-year-olds should not be worrying about this stuff. I know that because I was 13 worrying about this stuff, and I should have never had that presented to me, and especially not in this way. You are not parenting your child well enough. I'm going to go ahead and say it. You're supposed to protect your child from these sorts of feelings, given that it's not necessarily a worry that she should have as a 13-year-old child. And I'm pretty sure, given that the majority of states are not really rolling back their abortion standards, I'm pretty sure she's going to be fine if she were to need one. But what are you doing having your child go through this hysteria on the other end of Trump becoming president? It's so unnecessary. And I say that as somebody who could have saved myself a lot of self-inflicted hurt and pain in 2016 when he was elected as president. Chill. Like, it's going to be okay. Now, meanwhile, this is the list of people that will apparently be leaving the country because of a Trump victory. Alec Baldwin, Whoopi Goldberg, John Legend, Chrissy Teigen, Rob Reiner, Barbara Streisand, Cher, Nancy Pelosi, Hillary Clinton, Megan Rapinoe, Tom Hanks, Amy Schumer, AOC, Lady Gaga, Taylor Swift, Bill Gates, Jane Fonda, Madonna, Mark Ruffalo, Kim Kardashian, Bruce Springsteen, George Clooney, Hunter Biden, Oprah, Robert De Niro, Samuel L. Jackson, Miley Cyrus, Travis Kelce, Bobby Althoff, Rashida Tlaib, Stormy Daniels, Dr. Anthony Fauci, George Soros, Diddy, Eminem, Ellen DeGeneres, Sean Penn, Sharon Stone, Ashley Judd, Tommy Lee, Bryan Cranston, Billy Joe Armstrong. Are they headed out, y'all? I doubt it. I doubt it. This is something they do every election cycle. They're like, if the fascist wins, I'm getting out of here. I can't dare to live in this country anymore. I can't support it or whatever. And then here they stand. And it's so interesting to watch, you know, and a candidate that's been largely fueled by celebrity, and the celebrities just crash out on the other end. And I think this is only a sign to the American people, maybe even to Western culture, how insignificant celebrities have actually become, at least in our like American zeitgeist, I guess, that we now can see through, in a lot of ways, the fabrication that they've created. I mean, these people are entertainers, meaning they put on a facade for you to make you feel a certain way, and they tried to do the same with this campaign, and it just didn't work. And now they're crashing out all over social media.
And this is why Trump winning the popular vote is so huge, because you had dozens and dozens, like every celebrity you could basically think of came out the woodwork to be supporting Kamala Harris. And the fact that Trump won the popular vote in the face of that just underscores the reality that they are out of touch. They are out of sync with the common American and their rejection of Kamala Harris is a repudiation of the American elite. So well done to them. Also, I see some people asking, are you sure that wasn't just the Diddy list that was written?
Right. We need to check back in on them, because it might just be just the Diddy list, to be honest. You know, Danica Patrick wasn't lying when she was like, you know what? I wasn't paid to be here. I'm showing up on my own volition, and I was not at a Diddy party. You can believe that. And she has more going for her than many of the celebrities that came out and endorsed Kamala Harris. Now we're going to watch some media clips here of what happened in the wake of Kamala Harris winning this election before we get to the ladies of The View. Wemby's feeling himself in the background. I know you can hear him howling. He's on a tirade right now. Let's see how long he goes for. We're going to watch a media clip here.
And I just say, Rev, really quickly, too, Democrats need to be mature, and they need to be honest. And they need to say, yes, there's misogyny. But it's not just misogyny from white men. Mm-hmm. It's misogyny from Hispanic men. Right. It's misogyny from black men, things we've all been talking about, who do not want a woman leading them. Might be race issues with Hispanics. They don't want a black woman as president of the United States. You know, the Democratic Party, I've always found, when you're sitting around talking, they love to just sort of balkanize everybody into these separate groups and say, oh, white people don't like women and black people. No, it is time for the Democrats to say, okay, and you and I have talked about this before, a lot of Hispanic voters have problems with black candidates.
Right.
A lot
and
of,
with other Hispanics. You got some that don't like each other. And some of the most misogynist things I've heard going on this Get Out the Vote tour came from black men. I mean, misogynist things. So you're absolutely right. It's not simplistic. And we've got to have real honest conversations about it.
Real honest conversations.
They're not capable of a real honest conversation, because a real honest conversation would require them to look inward, and they cannot do it. They have to project outward. It's misogyny. You know, for a moment when he said, oh, they're saying it's misogyny, I'm like, oh, we might be on a good track. He's going to flip it over and say, this is not misogyny. It's the result of something else. And he said, it's not just misogyny from white men. It's misogyny from Hispanics and black men, and they all hate women, and they all hate Kamala Harris. They just didn't think she was going to be a great leader. Get over yourselves. I mean, it's just crazy to hear this with everything that's happened. I'd be curious to compare how Hillary Clinton was doing with these demographics in comparison to Kamala Harris and what the shift might have been. We spent so much time comparing to Biden that we haven't really looked into those numbers. But give me a break. Take some accountability for your platform and what you've said about this campaign.
Yeah, he says starts with saying we need to be honest and mature. And so I'm thinking, okay, well, we're going to get a little introspection here. This is a heartfelt moment. And then he's like, we need to blame minorities for being racist and misogynist and not just white people. That's the real reason that we're losing this election. It's like, okay, yeah, we've made absolutely no progress here on the self-awareness front. You guys are still completely out of touch. And you're on a network and you are again still puppeting this elitist ideology that America has just soundly rejected, and you're yelling at each other on a television channel that no one watches. You are in the minority. You are in an ivory tower. You are an intellectual elite class that nobody likes and nobody listens to, and you're projecting your vitriolic, hateful ideology onto the American people, even the ones that you purport to pedestal in minorities and in women, and you are effectively just talking down to them and saying horrible things about them because you have absolutely no self-awareness that the problem is actually you. So maybe we need to look in the mirror and take some accountability and do some introspection if you really do want to be mature and honest about your analysis of what this election means.
And speaking about somebody who's like incapable of mature and honest reporting on what's going on, Jen Psaki was all over the news talking about what happened on election night. Let's roll a clip of her.
I think this is a big, huge part of the story that it's hard to even digest fully at this moment. But you have Elon Musk, who owns Twitter, X, whatever we're calling it these days, X, who is a disinformation propagandist and now has could potentially have a direct line to the Oval Office. I think this is a
disinformation propagandist. Oh my goodness, they're crazy. And I've seen a lot of the media just sort of going after Elon in the wake of all this, and they're saying that like he's been utilizing X for election interference and he's been sharing certain stories, and like what they point to as evidence for this claim is that his X post gets hundreds of thousands of likes and it's seen by millions of people. Meanwhile, when our journalists respond to his X post, they only get a few hundred likes. It's like, no, babes, that's just how social media works. People are going for what they want to see. You know, people actually want to see what Elon has to say. They don't give a fuck about what you got to say. And that's really what's working. And they're like, it must be that he's manipulating the algorithm and he's committing some sort of election fraud. No, the people have just decided, and they decided that they don't want to hear you anymore. And a big point that Elon's been making after all of this is that you are the media. The media is you. And I think that's something that maybe the media needs to open their ears and hear, because they're not picking it up. They haven't gotten the memo yet.
And they can't fathom a world in which someone who has control over the levers of power over a platform like X or over a television network or over Google or what it may be, not using that power to weaponize it in favor of their preferred political candidate. Elon Musk is transparent about his political views or who he's supporting in this election, but there's no evidence that he's actually suppressing any kind of leftist voices on the platform of X. He's not using that power to do anything. This is just supply and demand. It's just algorithms doing algorithm things. He's not tilting the narrative in one direction or another other than sharing his personal opinions, which you guys do, but you're actually masquerading as being objective journalists, but instead you're totally weaponizing the thing that you control and are pretending not to. Elon Musk is being authentic and not weaponizing his platform. So well done, everyone. But I also have to say, I saw someone say, if it weren't for Elon's son being groomed or indoctrinated with gender ideology, would this election have happened? And I think that was a very interesting point, because it was in the wake of that he made a vow to destroy the woke mind virus. He bought X and emancipated it from the control of the leftist stranglehold over every bit of the discourse and every social platform and every news channel. And then, of course, he became an advocate for Donald Trump and probably his biggest ally in this campaign, and did arguably more than anybody else to deliver not just the presidency back to the Republicans, but the House and the Senate as well. So that's karma if I've ever seen it. Holy crap.
Yeah, 100% it is. And I think there's just so many different stances that like people on the Trump team, now that we're mentioning Elon, are coming from. You have Tulsi Gabbard, who experienced like the Democrats through and through and trying to run through their party, and is now leaving and deciding that's not okay. Wemby has so much to say. I might have to go grab him when we play another clip, because homeboy is yapping, and we have more to get to. There's Vivek Ramaswamy, who really experienced wokeness through his time in corporate America and in the business sector, and then realized this is not okay. RFK, who witnessed like big food and big pharma, and now they're moving in another direction. And I think people are shaking. All these agencies that Elon Musk is challenging, they're quaking in their boots, because he's probably going to take on some form of like leadership or some sort of advisor position alongside the Trump administration here. Tulsi Gabbard's going to definitely have much to say about the Democratic Party and going to be calling them out full force. Vivek Ramaswamy is going after corporate America and these big corporations, and RFK is going after big food and big pharma. And apparently the top 5 CEOs of pharmaceutical companies are actually holding an emergency teleconference, and they had one today at around 1 p.m. And a lawyer has confirmed that everyone is in a state of panic, apparently. They think like, hey, they're going to be coming for us. JD Vance on Joe Rogan's podcast spoke about not allowing these pharmaceutical companies to run ads in the way that they've been doing, trying to convince people to hop on these medications that they're selling and making, billions of dollars off of. So I think the elites among us are wondering, should we be worried a little bit? Are they gonna be in our backyard? And they just might be. They just might be.
Hate to see it. Yeah, and traditionally the left has been the party of we're against big business, we're against big pharma and all of that, and yet here when their side loses, big pharma is shaking in their boots. So that ought to tell you something.
We're gonna play one clip here from the media, and while this clip is playing, I'm actually gonna try to go and handle this dog so we can move on to one more story today. Okay. So here is the clip for you guys.
This is a mandate. He's won the national popular vote for the first time for a Republican, for the first time since 2004. This is a big deal. This isn't backing into the office. This is a mandate to do what you said you were going to do. Get the economy working again for regular working class Americans, fix immigration, try to get crime under control, try to reduce the chaos in the world. This is a mandate from the American people to do that. I think I'm interpreting the results tonight as the revenge of just the regular old working class American, the anonymous American who has been crushed, insulted, condescended to. They're not garbage. They're not Nazis. They're just regular people who get up and go to work every day and are trying to make a better life for their kids, and they feel like they have been told to just shut up when they have complained about the things that are hurting them in their own lives. I also feel like this election, as we sit here and pour over this tonight, is something of an indictment of the political information complex. I mean, we've been sitting around here for the last couple of weeks, and the story that was portrayed was not true. I mean, we were told Puerto Rico was going to change the election. Liz Cheney, Nikki Haley voters, women lying to their husbands. Before that, it was Tim Walz and the camo hats. Night after night after night, we were told all these things and gimmicks were going to somehow push Harris over the line, and we were just ignoring the fundamentals. Inflation, people feeling like that they were barely able to tread water at best, That was the fundamentals of the election. And so I think that both parties should always look at the results of an election and figure out what went right and what went wrong. But I think for all of us who cover elections and talk about elections and do this on a day-to-day basis, we have to figure out how to understand, talk to, and listen to the half of the country that rose up tonight and said, we've had enough.
Couldn't have said it better myself. Very interesting to have somebody have a little bit of reason on CNN in the wake of all of this, because so much of it was so unreasonable. All of their responses, they just couldn't fathom what was happening, which actually leads us to our final story. Of course, when all this was happening, everybody was saying, I need to check in on The View tomorrow. I have to watch The View tomorrow. I have to see what Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar and Sunny Hostin have to say about this, because we know they're going to be melting down and hearing that Trump has won the election. Now we check in with The View, and they're all dressed as though a funeral is taking place. All except Whoopi Goldberg. It seemed like Whoopi Goldberg said, you know what? I'm going to show up in what I would normally wear. The rest of the women can dress in all black and mourn the death of, I don't know what, democracy. Is that what they feel like they've lost last night? Even though democracy was truly at play. And the people spoke. And they let you know what direction they wanted to go in. So here are the fits. We're going to watch some clips here. Here's what Joy Behar had to say.
Think critically. Well, it would help if we could regulate social media, because one of the biggest offenders is D.C. and Congress have not been able to do one thing in regard to the rogue corporations of social media.
It's not going to get any better with Elon Musk now in the administration. I want to think critically.
We need to regulate. We can't have this happen again. They're too free on social media. We can't let them freely share information with one another, because when they freely share information with one another, they vote for Donald Trump. We have to regulate them. And this is actually a part of the Harris campaign, the Harris-Walz campaign, that really led to people going like, oh no, we can't vote for them. They're saying they're going to come after misinformation and hate speech, which what they really mean is we're going to go after our political opponents. And now you're hearing that sort of language. The deregulation of social media from Elon Musk buying X was huge. And I think not only was it his like sort of trans kid coming out and all the turmoil that happened on the other end of that led to his awakening, it was the realization that upon buying X, the government is going to come after you. You now have a massive target on your back because you've left an open field out for people to just share information and say whatever they want. And they can't have that. So luckily, Donald Trump won this election, because had he not, first of all, Donald Trump would be in prison. But I think they would have found some way to go after Elon Musk, and it might just have been some sort of case of election interference, even though what he was doing by buying X was reversing the pathway of election interference that they had before. And he said upon buying X and doing like a full-scale audit of everything that was going on behind the scenes, the FBI, your U.S. government, the Federal Bureau of Investigation, had several pathways into X by which they controlled the information that you were able to see as an American citizen on the platform. Shouldn't happen. Never okay. And he ended up doing away with a lot of those things. So there you go.
He mentioned on Joe Rogan as well that the communications between Twitter staff, the old Twitter staff, and the FBI were deleted every 2 weeks. So whatever directives that the FBI or the Biden administration was communicating on these back channels to Twitter to say, hey, censor this person, quash this narrative, this is information, this is hate speech, you have to do this. However they were colluding, we mostly have no evidence of it now. We have it in the Twitter files, broadly speaking, but as far as a lot of the specifics of what was going on, they don't even know. And he bought the entire platform and doesn't have access to that. So just completely shadiness. And so the idea that these ladies of The View are so worried about misinformation and free speech, when it all comes down to who gets to define what is misinformation, who gets to define what is hate speech. And Elon talked about this in his interview with Joe Rogan. It's like the best remedy for misinformation is true information, and you're free to communicate that true information on X. And then they also have as backup the community note system, which is open source, and anybody can create a better framing or correction of information that's put out, and it's tagged onto that. And Elon has no finger on the scale of how that is done on the platform. So again, it's freedom versus tyranny, and they don't realize it, but they're on the tyranny end of that.
Yeah, they most definitely are, and they certainly don't realize it. Sunny Hostin says this isn't about policy. This is about a race and gender.
I'm surprised at the result, but I'm not surprised. As a woman of color, I was so hopeful that a mixed race woman married to a Jewish guy could be elected president of this country. And I think that it had nothing to do with policy. I think this was a referendum of cultural resentment in this country. I'm surprised.
Oh, give me a break, Sonny. Every chance she gets the opportunity. Every time she just goes after race, gender. She cries about being a person of color. Again, never takes accountability for anything going on. None of her actions, none of the rhetoric that she shares, none of the times that she's been corrected. She could not possibly come forward and look in the mirror in any way, shape, or form. And we knew The View was going to be very upset about this, and the whole world did. So I think they kind of like, everybody recognized, like, they probably had their morning meeting and were like, okay, we're gonna try to handle this in the best way. We're not gonna have any off-color moments. We're not gonna go too brash out there. We're certainly not gonna have a meltdown like many people are having. They had to be treading lightly in their response to Trump winning this election. Here's one more clip out of The View. Let's run it.
My takeaway is that the system works. We live in a democracy. People spoke. This is what people wanted. I vehemently disagree with the decision that Americans made, but I feel very, very hopeful that we have a democratic system in this country. We should value it. We should love it. We should protest if the situation arises that we need to protest, which I'm sure it will. And I've been through this before with Nixon. It's been very difficult, but boy, oh boy, do we have a country if we can keep it.
Yeah. Well,
there we go. Of course, the underlying sentiment is that there is somehow a country under threat with Trump being the president, and that there, of course, will be something we have to protest about. Of course. It's the very nature of the being itself and having a Republican president. There will be something that we will need to protest. But in general, I can get behind her sentiment. This was the democratic process at work, and it led to where it led, much to the shock and dismay of the women on The View. And so far, they've handled it well. I think everybody in the media is probably doing cartwheels because this means they have 4 more years of consistent content. We know in 2016, when Donald Trump was president, both before and after, let's be honest, they were just running around. Every story was a Trump story. Everything was twisting his comments, attacking him for something he said, done, advocated for, something they heard from his brother's mother's cousin that he said. And those were the stories that the media was rolling out. Now they get to do that again because I think they'll be damned if they don't try to attack him in his final term as a U.S. president. So if anything, they have a whole bunch of ammunition. And I guess we do too, because then we're going to have to go through their comments and fact check them. And the cycle begins once again, as it did in 2016. But now in 2024, we going to do it again in 2024, as Kamala Harris would say.
Gonna do the hard work. The hard work is good work to debunk all the narratives that they're putting out there. No, I hadn't thought about that the media is probably happy about, I mean, in one sense, the financially incentivized part of them is happy that they're probably going to be getting ratings back because, yeah, you're right. 2016 to 2020, there was record ratings on cable television because there was a constant catastrophization of anything and everything that Donald Trump would do. I hope that we've learned our lesson from going through that, and maybe we're not going to, completely go that way all over again. You saw, like, I referenced it a couple of times, but Jeff Bezos came out and blocked the Washington Post's endorsement of Kamala Harris because he wants to move back toward, being more objective and restoring their reputation. You've seen Mark Zuckerberg kind of back down and say, I want to be more libertarian when it comes to controlling speech and stuff like that on the platform. So, maybe the media and the big tech and whatnot have learned a little bit of a lesson, and they want to restore credibility and restore institutional trust in themselves. But I won't be holding my breath. I'm sure there will be plenty of places to find the seething about Trump during this administration if you go looking for it.
Yeah, 100%. We won't there will be no scarcity of that. Guys, we're going to get into your super chats. We're not going to be able to read all of them because a lot of you have shown up today. So we're going to read your super chats for a little while here, and then we'll close out the show. Thank you guys so much for watching, and thank you so much for your support. Let's hear from you.
All right. Yeah, we didn't have record turnout numbers overall in the election, but we had record turnout in our super chats today. That
yes, we did.
Sure. Okay, let's see. Trey Bannon says he's a regular. I got to shout him out.
Yeah.
Today's my birthday. Woke up to the second best present ever. For context, 3 years ago today, my wife told me we were pregnant with my daughter. Oh, that's awesome.
Very nice. And there we go. A little chime because it's your birthday. Happy birthday, Trey.
Happy birthday. Oh, and he adds, now all I need is my Alabama Crimson Tide to beat Taylor's LSU Tigers this weekend. Can I get a roll tide?
I can't do that to Taylor. Sorry. I have to remain loyal.
Yeah, go Tigers. Go Tigers. Yeah. We'll see what happens. The loser is pretty much season over. So I've had that happen at the hands of the Tide many times. Scott Ward says reality VP Harris is unplugged. She has reached her level competence and her campaign showed the American people that she wasn't ready to be a president.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, it's crazy. And it's like, it almost feels shocking just because of how the media portrayed her. They were just trying to convince everybody she's ready, she's ready, she's ready, she's ready. And then it was proven almost immediately that she was not. So very interesting to watch this play out. And yes, America spoke and she was not ready.
Yeah, it's almost like you should have a primary to weed out a really weak candidate who's not ready for it. But wait, we had to rush her through.
DNC needs to learn.
Says it's so weird to hop on from catching up on the election live to today's. Great to be able to hop on. What do you think Vance needs to do to set himself up for success in 2028 primary? Oh man, we're thinking that far ahead already.
I'm not thinking that far ahead. I think he just needs to keep doing what he's doing and be a good vice president, get some stuff done over the next 4 years, and we'll see from there.
Yeah, what he needs to do is keep being chill and going on Theo Vaughn and Joe Rogan and just showing up and showing himself intelligent and measured. And, you know, I mean, but yeah, we're not going to think that far ahead.
Right.
We got 4 years to work with here. Let's see. Adam Kupka says, hey guys, congrats for the election outcome. Normal gay guy here. Lost about 700 followers on Instagram. Much support from the Czech Republic.
Hey, that happens, you know, happens to the best of us. We'll live on, we'll survive.
It do be like that. Yeah, if you've lost Instagram followers or friends in the chat, drop it down below and then receive some solace by your fellow friends who might have experienced the same. Kara says, I'm a 21-year-old who voted for Trump in Pennsylvania. I work a full-time job and I make decent money, but I'm living paycheck to paycheck for a 1-bedroom apartment.
Yeah, it's tough. I mean, hopefully these things start to change over the next 4 years. It's hard to make like significant change over the next 4 years, but we'll see what happens. Trust the process, hopefully.
Trust the process. Ray says, I'm Ukrainian. I'm a U.S. citizen. I voted for Trump every time. Very thankful for this huge win. Trump 2024.
See, this is what happens when we show up. Okay, guys, we make moves.
Jocelyn Navarro says, Amala, how do you know so much? I see that you are very informed and knowledgeable. I'm 19 and I want to be like you someday. How do I achieve?
I don't know too much, guys. Don't give me too much credit. It's a lot of just compiling and being on the internet and being like, remember that thing that happened in 2021? And just like going and searching and scouring and finding for it. And that's really about it. You're all just as capable. Trust.
Salazar says, this was my first time voting and I'm so happy Trump won.
Oh, nice. First time voter. Chime for that one. Love it. Thanks for doing what you're doing.
One Cake Pop Multi-Stand says, I'm 14 and I convinced my Democrat mom to vote Trump Vance.
Hey.
Glad my months of debating paid off.
Love that. That's nice. Wow, that's a big win to convince your mom at 14 years old to change things up a little bit. Very good for you.
Yeah, that's awesome. Tayton says, Kamala banked on everybody disliking Trump more than having a solid policy and answering questions. Well, that didn't work out very well.
100%, because she can't, what she really should have done is deviated from Joe Biden, said, I'm a very different candidate, and here's why, and here's what I could have done differently. She didn't do that. Instead, she just said, here's all the things that are wrong with Trump. And this is not going to get you very far, considering the media and every single institution has been doing that for 8 years now. So you needed to really play a different card, and she didn't.
Yeah. She had to, really, because she couldn't subject herself to real open questioning because she's not capable of handling it. So she ran the campaign that she had to run and it still failed. I'm gonna long slap you says, I'm so happy for you guys. Come save us in Canada now. The woke mind virus is so bad here because of the censorship laws. Legacy media is what is rotting people's brains. We don't claim Justin Trudeau.
Yeah, it's gonna be hard. Canada is an uphill battle, I think, ahead. But if America's any indication of where Canada's going, which it seems to be in a lot of ways, things can change. I have hope in you guys, and I hope you guys have hope for us. We're going to read a couple more of your super chats. We'll close out here at 3 o'clock, probably.
Okay. Niana Camara says, I'm so proud to say I voted for the first time and for Trump. Thank you both for being a voice of reason, humor, and kindness. Y'all inspire me so much, and I'm grateful it came across your podcast.
Thank you. First time voter. Another chime. We're really leaning on the chimes today.
Maria Fedorovsky says, I'm a senior in my high school. So many people said, if you're on Trump's side, you're racist. I understand the frustration, but it didn't feel good. Love ya.
Yeah, I think it's just like a lot of the stuff, like a lot of the TDS stuff I'm seeing from very young people too. I just think the younger you are, the more susceptible you are to these narratives. And it was the same with me. They'll age out of it, and you kind of just have to deal with it, unfortunately, as someone in your high school right now. But hopefully they will learn on the other end of this.
Indeed. Yarmouth says on Destiny's live stream, some of his guests were convinced that the reason Kamala lost was because America isn't ready for a woman of color in office.
Yeah, I don't think so. I think he could have totally had a perfectly capable woman of color take the lead. Just not that one. Certainly not that one.
Yeah, not buying that. Paul Carl, finally, I was able to catch you live. Your view on all these topics is amazing. Greetings from the Czech Republic.
Oh, thank you so much, Paul. I really appreciate it, and I'm glad that you guys were able to catch this live today. There will be many more, hopefully, pop-up lives in the wake of everything that's happening now, and we'll have many more to talk about, much more to discuss through all of this. And I'm glad that you guys were all here to hang out through this lengthy 2-hour live today. If you guys, oh, my dogs are here. They're running around in the studio and making lots of noise.
I see things shaking.
There's Charlie and Webby. They're going to pop up
hilarious.
here some point. I know my camera is moving.
Oh my gosh,
it's
there it goes.
Down. That's great.
Looks like an LA earthquake.
Okay.
All right, I guess we're going to have to get out of here. Sorry if we didn't get to your super chat today, guys.
Yeah,
we had so
guys.
many, and we appreciate y'all participating in the conversation.
Oh, and there's Charlie. There we go. There's
Charlie.
our culprit. Guys, like, subscribe, click the notification bell.